So, hey everyone, and welcome to the 11th episode of TESOL, TalentHut TESOL Academy podcast, where we uncover the heart of teaching and celebrate the educators that shape the future, one story at a time. I'm Nasaran, your host, and today we're going to shine a spotlight on a person who makes education better. I'm thrilled to talk with someone who spent her career helping teachers grow. She's a trainer, consultant, content creator, and has worked with major organizations like Penguin Random House and Macmillan India. She's trained over 7,000 teachers worldwide, from Pakistan to South Korea, Indonesia to the UK. She creates bespoke training for diverse cultures and needs and examines teachers taking TESOL courses. Dany, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Great. So I will just dive into the conversation. And well, I am a non-native English speaker, so it's kind of obvious that the reason why I went through teaching English in my country. But you, as a native English speaker, looking back, what was the defining moment that pushed you towards teaching English, and then later teaching teachers?
Okay, great question to start with. There's actually a few defining moments. So the first one is my grandfather, my maternal grandfather. He was actually Greek Cypriot. So he had quite broken English, and I used to love listening to him and talking to him and, helping him. And my other grandfather, my paternal grandfather, had a house in Spain. So when we were children, we used to go to Spain every summer, and I just loved listening to languages and picking them up. I found that French was my best subject at school. So from that and from visiting Spain so much, I then went on to learn Spanish. So I think having that knowledge of French and Spanish and really enjoying languages, I thought I really, really want to get into teaching English as a foreign language.
Okay, that was really interesting. So what pushed you towards teaching teachers?
I think naturally, and I think lots of teachers might be able to resonate with this. I think we all start as teachers, and then often we grow within the ELT profession. And I think I was asked to do some teacher training, and I said yes, and then it grew from there. So I was asked once, and it was amazing. And then I think the ELT world is quite small sometimes, so you make contacts quite quickly. And it was a roller coaster then of me traveling all around the world, delivering lots of different training. But it started really, really small.
Okay, great. Thank you for the explanation. So, as you mentioned that you traveled a lot and you taught different people from students to teachers, what's one of the misconceptions that teachers have about this professional development that you wish you could have changed it?
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. I was thinking about this question. The one thing that maybe I find difficult sometimes is maybe I start a training course. I don't know who the teachers are, and it's on Zoom, for example, and even face to face. And the first thing some teachers ask me is, can we have a certificate? And I think sometimes I'm trying to say, actually, it's not about how many courses you do or how many workshops you attend. And it's certainly not about having a certificate on your wall. I think it's the process and the conversations you have with other teachers and your trainer, and just this notion that teaching is a sharing practice. And I think that's the most important thing. It's never about having, 100 certificates. It's what courses are you doing? What's the impact that that will have on you? And what conversations can you have with other teachers that can help you grow?
Totally agree. I think this comes from the, organizations that people want to work with because they're looking for the certificate. So
yeah,
that's the point, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And well, I remember reading about you, and I learned that you actually create contents for different countries and cultures. Yeah. So my question was, how do you do that? There are definitely challenges because every country has their own culture and they have their own point of view and everything. And what was the most problematic thing that you faced through doing it?
I don't think anything's been really problematic. I think maybe I've been quite lucky because I've traveled to so many countries around the world and experienced lots of different cultures. So you kind of pick a lot of things up along the way. You learn to respect cultures, and you need to think about, even on training courses, not just content creation, about how you adapt and modify certain things for different countries, because maybe some things are not acceptable. And also just from being a teacher in the classroom as well, I've been, lucky enough to teach probably most nationalities from around the world. And you build rapport with your students, you get to know them, and you know what is acceptable culturally and what is not. And I think that's really, really important. Nowadays, it's much, much better. But, sometimes there were maybe course books that were used all around the world and maybe not always culturally That's much better now. I think course books nowadays are absolutely amazing. But when I first started teaching, many, many years ago, it was, one particular course book that's used in so many different countries. And you'd look through as a teacher and think, actually, that's not relevant, or maybe it's not meaningful to the teacher. So you'd kind of modify. But course books nowadays are kind of amazing compared to maybe many years
ago. Definitely. Because of social media and the development and stuff, people know much more these days. But do you have, I don't know, maybe funny memory of it, or something specific for you at the beginning of your job? Because right now you definitely have the experience, you know what to do, but probably at the beginning it was a little bit more challenging for you.
Yeah, I think everything's always challenging at the beginning, isn't it? Teaching different cultures that maybe you've never met before, you've never been to that country, you haven't experienced it. But I think it's just, I can't think of anything particular that's really funny, but I think it's just about always creating that safe learning environment. So you have those conversations and you get to know your students really well. And also you're interested in their culture. I think that's really important. So, from very early on, I wanted to know where my students come from, what's important in their culture, what's important to them as people. And I think that just helps you create better content and be a much, much better teacher.
Right. Thank you for sharing it. So another question for you. Well, in the ELT industry, if we could have had a reset button, what would be the first thing that you would redesign or erase? Like, is it about the qualifications, the priorities, or what?
Okay, this is a brilliant question. I love this. And I hope by answering it that there's ELT people around the world that we can help change this as much as possible. The first thing that makes me crazy, as in quite angry, is this necessity on some job adverts that they're asking for native teachers. I think this is such an antiquated point of view.
Tell me about it.
It's just, I don't like it. I've worked with some of the most amazing teachers around the world, and most of them have been non-native. I don't see why there is this need to have these adverts that put non-native. If people are, they're good in the classroom, they should be allowed to teach. It shouldn't be whether you are British or you're not British. So that is one thing that really makes me crazy. And the second thing that I would possibly change is the inequality in pay in English language teaching. I think, even nowadays I look on job adverts and, it's something I do regularly. I do it every day. I've always done it. And I see these jobs that are, $3 an hour or $6 an hour or even 10 or even, 15. I think there needs to be equality for all teachers all around the world. That, this is a profession and we should get paid well to do this profession. Even sometimes in the UK, there are jobs, and I think, how are they allowed to advertise? Firstly, native teachers, and secondly, at such a low rate of pay. So those are two things that I think really need quite a lot of work in the ELT industry.
I hope there would come a time that you could really do it, because I'm someone I'm a non-native English speaker, and I definitely have problem with it because, well, I know that I'm good at what I'm doing, and I've been I had a lot of experience and everything, but when it comes to working with different countries, but I want to as the same as you do, I really would like to go travel the world and see different people, different culture, and learn from them, and try even to teach them something from my side. But when it comes to my nationality, everyone is like, oh, okay, no, it's not possible. Even though they know that I'm good and they look at my resume and they're like, well, you're exactly the one that we're looking for, but because I'm a non-native English speaker, I can't.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
so
hope
unfair.
that day really comes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So to continue this conversation, it's like we all have this dream to work in a global kind of career thing. So, but not all of us can do it, especially as we just talked about, if we are non-native English speakers.
Yeah.
So, do you have any kind of advice that, like, I don't know, maybe it can help us through the way? And where can we begin doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one because really I'd been teaching for so many years. And the first time I was asked, my first global international teacher training trip was to Pakistan. And I was asked to go to Pakistan, and immediately I said yes. It's somewhere I've always wanted to go. And it kind of roller coasted from there. So that was my first trip. And then quite quickly, I started going to lots of others. So I think the best piece of advice is kind of have conversations with people and also put yourself out there. I never really did put myself out there because I didn't like, putting things on LinkedIn, and I didn't want to say, hey, employ me, give me a job abroad. So I had this amazing opportunity. It roller coasted. But I think nowadays, it's definitely about putting yourself out there on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a great platform. You can connect with lots of teachers. And I think connecting with other teachers is really, really important. So as you know, I've been lucky enough to go to so many countries. I've trained so many teachers, and I've kept so many relationships with so many teachers all around the world. And I think that's really, really important. So one example is I met an amazing lady in Sri Lanka, I think in about 2018. And we've remained friends. We speak quite often. When she's come to London, we've met up. We've done some projects together. I now do some examining for her company. And we're just keeping those connections going as much as possible. The same in Pakistan. I've been lucky enough to go 3 times. I've done 3 tours of Pakistan, and I still keep in contact with people that I've met there. And that has led to other collaborations. So keep the conversation going. Even if it feels uncomfortable, if this is a job and a dream job you want to do, you have to put yourself out there. But keep your LinkedIn profile relevant and up to date, although I'm quite guilty of not doing that now, but it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, it can actually make the connection, but it doesn't work really that well, honestly, because I've been on LinkedIn for a while now. But yes, you have to keep searching and keep connecting with people because it just comes all of a sudden. Like me joining TESOL Academy, like TalentHut TESOL Academy, I was like, it was just a random thing. I just saw the post and I was like, okay, it's gonna be interesting opportunity for me. And it doesn't matter if, like, for the beginning, it's my opinion, maybe it doesn't matter that if it's being paid or not. The thing is about making the connection first and like put yourself out there, and then it just goes well for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. So after having many workshops yourself, is there any kind of activity or strategy that you think it would work everywhere? Like, it doesn't matter what country it is, like if there are like new teachers, experienced teachers, it just works well.
Okay. A great question. Again, really good questions. I don't think it's a particular strategy or a particular activity. The one thing that I would always try and do, whether I am giving a workshop to teachers of 20 or 500, I think sometimes I've had more than 500 in the room, and on Zoom, I've had a lot more than that, is to making sure that teachers have something they can go away with, not a certificate, but something simple and practical. So I always look at my workshop slides and I'm thinking, okay, what can I give my teachers that's going to benefit them, that's going to help them, something that they can use in the classroom immediately. And I think that's what people want. I went to a conference in the summer, and it's no different for me if I'm going to a conference. That's what I want. I don't want to be lectured to. I want to have something simple, practical, that I think I've never used that before. I can try and use that in my classroom and then reflect and see if it works or doesn't work. So I'm always reflecting on my notes and just looking, what can I give the teachers that they can implement straight away and use in their classroom?
Okay, great. Interesting. So, have you ever used maybe a strategy or something that it didn't work and you needed to change it?
I think I can't think of a specific example, but what I would say is you read the room, and you do that whether you're a teacher or a trainer. So again, whether I've got 50 or 500, you are constantly observing your teachers. Is it working? Is it not working? The same as you do in the classroom, you know, with a lesson plan. If it's not working, you need to have that flexibility to then think, okay, this is not working. I need to look at plan B. And that's the same in a training room. The other thing that I find is often if I've got really big audiences, so, you know, in Pakistan, I used to have quite big audiences in different cities. What I would do was always make sure that I had a walkway or a pathway. And that's something I always ask if I'm doing face-to-face training. I don't want to be stood at the front lecturing. I want a pathway so I can reach every teacher so that they feel that they are kind of part of what I'm delivering. I'm not just that person stood at the front that's talking at them. And I think that's really, really important because it makes a better connection with the audience.
Right. Amazing. Thank you. So, is there any belief that you had early in your career and now you realize that it was completely wrong?
Yeah, there's a few things actually. Again, amazing question to kind of reflect and think about. I did my CELTA in 1998, so I'm showing my age now. That was quite a long time ago. And I think the one thing, not that I took from that course in particular, but the one thing we were kind of often told, and certainly when I first worked in Spain, we were told the same thing. It was don't translate. So I speak Spanish, and in Spain, I was told don't translate, don't translate. Whereas I think there's lots of research to suggest now that, you know, translation is a good thing. And I would encourage my students, you know, it can save their life in the classroom sometimes to translate. It can help embed a grammar idea in a much, much better way. So, you know, I think using the first language, second language, or even third language is not something negative now, whereas I think maybe many years ago it was frowned upon and it was like English only. And I think there's a lot of benefit in using translation. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying translate everything all of the time. If a student's got, you know, translation apps or technology in the classroom, then that's negative, that's common sense. But I think there's lots of ways that translation can help in the classroom if students use it in the right way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it still is a misconception all over the world. Like in my country, it still is. Like some institutes that you want to work with, they're like, okay, never ever speak in their like native language. And I'm like, okay, for intermediate level students, that's acceptable. But when you have a basic learner, how can you make the connection? You need to be able to make the connection with them specifically if they're like young learners.
Absolutely. Well, even as you said, like intermediate students, sometimes there may be a grammar point that doesn't exist in the native language and it does in English. And that may be really tricky. And actually by translating or looking at it, then that could really, really help them. So, you know, it's a no-brainer, as I would say. But you're right. I did a lot of training in lots of countries and lots of teachers say to me, but we're not allowed. We're not allowed to translate. And our supervisor, our manager, culturally, it's not acceptable to use anything but English. So I think sometimes it's quite hard to break that if culturally, you know, they're told, or they could be in trouble for using the native language. So I guess it's about spreading the word and more research papers and more conference talks and workshops to say, you know, well, actually, there are benefits to using translation when it's needed, or like you said, when it can make a connection or a link and help the students.
Yeah, exactly. And they also make you feel like bad about it. Like after a while, you're like, okay, if I use my native language, am I doing a right thing? Or like maybe something is wrong with me that I cannot teach well, but it's not. It definitely is not.
Yeah. Well, even like advanced level students, sometimes it could be like a save your life situation. So they just don't know a word, and it doesn't matter how you explain it. Maybe they're having a bad day, or it's just quite a difficult word to put into context and they really don't know it. And then if someone in the classroom is the same language as them and just kind of writes it down or whispers in their ear or says to them, well, actually, it's this in our language, then that can also make the class move on quicker and smoothly. It's kind of, you don't have to then spend a long time and they just don't get it. It's kind of that instant, yes, I know what it is. And then you can move on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a student, he's young, but his English is really good.
Hmm.
And I don't remember like times that we spoke in our native language at all. But
Hmm.
then I was teaching him about present perfect, which
Yeah.
honestly, it is super difficult to explain.
Yeah.
So I like at a moment I was like, okay, I gotta switch into Persian and I
Yeah.
gotta speak in Persian because I couldn't
Yeah.
like tell him what
Yeah.
I meant
Yeah.
about it.
I think that's perfect, for complex grammar ideas, when they can make that connection with their native language. That's the difference then between them making progress and understanding it further on, rather than always thinking, I don't know what the present perfect is, I've got no idea what it is, and always struggling with it. And then that becomes almost like a fossilized error. We don't really say that these days, kind of like negative language transfer, and we can turn it into positive by just using that translation.
Okay. So, do you believe that teaching is about changing lives as well?
I think it can be. Some countries that I've taught students on, maybe online, that I haven't been to, for them, English, unfortunately, this is I think this is a bit of a negative thing. English is so dominant these days. It's a global language, and for some people in some countries, actually, it's their path to a better life, because it makes them more employable. It means that they can travel. It means that they can perhaps get a better job with a better salary. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah. So, looking to that, what is one life lesson do you think that we as teachers need to learn before even starting teaching?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. I think personality is quite important with teaching, like how you build rapport with students, how you speak to people, how you respect people, creating that safe learning environment. And, that doesn't always come naturally to everybody. These are things that maybe are inbuilt within us, within our personality. And maybe some people are just very good at teaching because they're able to do this very quickly, and maybe some people aren't.
Okay. And well, to pursue that, if you could have given a teacher a skill overnight, what would
Mm-hmm.
it be?
Oh my gosh, there's so many different skills I think that you could give teachers overnight. I think one thing that's really important for me is, we always say Maslow before Bloom. So, just making sure that there is that safe learning environment where students of any age and any level can grow in your classroom. Because if there isn't, then actually pedagogically it's quite difficult to move on and get them to progress. They might not like the classroom. There may be something going on at home. So I think kind of building that emotional intelligence communication is really, really important. And that's a skill that all teachers should have. Quite difficult sometimes if you've got classes that are really, really large, but I think that's really important. And that's how your students will progress and get better.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe giving teachers the power just to try out new things and not be afraid of trying new things. We can always get things wrong in the classroom, but I think the biggest thing is being flexible, trying things out and reflecting. We ask our students to reflect, but as teachers, we need to reflect on, well, what technique or strategy or what new thing did we do in the classroom? And did it work? Did it not work? And how can we make it better next time? So I think giving all teachers, even like really newly experienced teachers, the confidence to try things out and not just stick to page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4.
Yeah.
Look at your students and think, well, what can you do to make more impact, I guess. Instant rapport building would be another one that can be quite difficult if you've got really big classes, but there's massive advantages to just having that great rapport with your students in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Totally agree, specifically about the part that we need to be more flexible and things like that. Well, actually, I try to like be more flexible over time. And the more flexible I was, like the classes was just like they went better and better.
Yeah, and I think it does have an impact, especially if I'm training and they're really new teachers, that they often say your lesson plan is your guide, it's your book, it's your Bible. Well, yes, it can be at sometimes, but actually you need to have that flexibility to realize that it doesn't go activity 1, activity 2, activity 3 in the classroom, because you've got to differentiate. You've got to read the room, what's happening in the classroom. And I always say there's these golden nugget moments where you go off piste on your lesson plan, but sometimes they're the best things to happen in your lesson, where your students are conversing with each other, they're fluent, they're enjoying it, they're engaged and motivated. So yeah, absolutely, flexibility.
Exactly. This is the topic that I turned it into a 10-hour course for TalentHut Academy.
Amazing.
And we actually started to work on it with teachers, because that misconception was like for everyone that, well, we learned to make lesson plans. Without lesson plans, the classes wouldn't work. And I was like, yes, I do agree that lesson plans can help, especially if you're a new teacher. But honestly, it's not the whole thing. Like, you can just go off the lesson plan and do whatever you want sometimes. And it can actually be even more helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, it went faster than I expected. So we come across the last question.
Okay.
What is the what's your dream place to run a workshop in the future? Maybe from the places that you've never been into, or you had the best experience in it.
Oh my gosh, do you know what? I can't just name one. There's just too many. I would love to go back to Pakistan. I've done 3 tours in Pakistan. I absolutely love it. I've always have the best time, make the best connections. And so I'd love to go back to Pakistan. I'd also love to go back to Kurdistan. So I did some work in Erbil there. And again, just the most amazing country and the most amazing people. And perhaps the other 2, I spent a lot of time training Egyptian teachers, and I haven't been to Egypt. So at some point I have to go, because I've trained so many Egyptian teachers. And also, if possible in the future, to go to Iran, because for another company that I work for, I train so many Iranian teachers. In fact, I've got a session with a group of Iranian teachers tomorrow evening.
Oh, really?
So many, and they're always just so knowledgeable, and they ask the right questions, and they're just really interested. So yeah, that was 4, and probably there's a lot more other places I'd like to go to as well. So probably, yeah, Pakistan, Kurdistan, Egypt and Iran, because I've trained so many teachers and I haven't been to those countries. And I do think there's something special with going to the country when you're training teachers, because you do kind of understand the culture and everything a little bit more. And perhaps the UAE, because I spend quite a lot of time there. It's a place I go with my family, but I've never actually done any workshop or training there. So yeah.
Okay, great. Well, it's not really that common for like native speakers to come to Iran to teach in person. Like, honestly, I haven't seen myself. Maybe there are some, like few, like your case, that they've taught online, but in person, I've never seen it myself before. So yeah, I really definitely hope there comes a day that it can be just possible.
Watch this space.
Okay, great. It was amazing talking to you. Is there any other points that you'd like to mention?
Oh my gosh, I think we've covered everything. It was really great, actually, to answer some of these questions and just reflect on key aspects in English language teaching, what we can improve, what we can change. And just, I think the idea of just reflecting anyway is always good. It's good for me then to think of the questions that you've asked and how we can reflect and just improve the ELT industry as much as possible.
Great. Thank you so much. And I hope that you and everyone who's going to listen to this podcast inspired, like they've been inspired from this conversation. And it was really great having you here, and that you reminded us that teaching will never stop, and teaching, learning, and it's like it travels, you know, like it lives on with us. So it was really amazing. And to everyone who is listening, please do not wait for a permission to grow. Be the teacher that you want your future students count on. So this is the TalentHut TESOL Academy podcast. I'm Nassan, and till we meet again, keep changing the world one classroom at a time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.